came. And you came to your house. You came for an emergency house call.
We have to remember that. We have to remember where their philosophy comes. It doesn't come from America. It comes from overseas. It comes from socialism.
We, as freedom-loving Americans, must not be scared into Obama's radical Chicago tactics.
Wow, we're back. Time for the Politics Fix with P.J. O'Rourke, who's his newest book's called Driving Like Crazy, and the Washington Post's Eugene Robinson, who's an MSNBC political analyst. P.J., welcome to the show. I don't know, what do you make of Michele Bachmann here? She was on this show a few months ago calling for an investigation by the media of the anti-Americanism on the Democratic side of the aisle. There she is in a kind of a high-pitched call out to her troops, saluting them for showing up as if brazenly demanding whatever from the Republic. I don't know what to make of this
Stop it before it spreads is what I say. You know, I mean, nobody's more Republican than I am, but when it comes to protests, I like the kind of protests we had in Virginia and New Jersey, you know, not the kind of protests in the street. Everybody knows the Republicans are, the Democrats are the silly party, the Republicans are the stupid party, but you don't want to be stupid and crazy. I mean, stupid's got its place, but not stupid and crazy.
Well, I don't know what to make of the hero selection of the Republican Party. They have got an interesting way of picking heroes. Sarah Palin, Michele Bachmann, they're not picking leaders. They're not picking people who are interested in governing. They don't even know. We had a guy on here the other day, Mark Williams, a radio talk jock. I don't know what he really believes. He could be a complete whatever, charlatan for I know. But he didn't know the names of the Republican leaders of Congress when I kept asking him. Name the leaders.
Hey, there's a good reason. There's a good reason not to know their names.
Right. But I mean, if you're in this business, PJ, you don't need to know the names of your leaders because you're never mentioning them.
We have many secret, really excellent secret leaders with tremendous heroic potential, and we're keeping them hidden until the last minute, Chris.
Those stealth leaders, I tell you.
Stealth leaders, that's right.
But you know, the Republicans are selecting for star power, for pizzazz. For Sarah Palin's got
Michele
Bachmann in her slightly different and weirder way has star power and is able to excite the kind of tinfoil segment of the Republican base. I mean,
it's rural, it's out west, it's something. There's a pattern here emerging.
Think about those two words. Think about those two words, Republican and pizzazz. Do those go together?
Well, they do now. You know, it may not. You're not selling the steak. You're selling the sizzle at this point. They don't need to have a steak.
No, my job as a Republican is to make everybody eat skinless chicken breasts. You know, no steak, no sizzle. You know, I mean, my job is to be dull. You know.
Do you think, PJ, as a sort of the Will Rogers of our time, I think you'll accept that.
Well, thank you.
Or Mark Twain, somewhere up in that pantheon. Do you think what's going on is that people have these boring jobs like legislators, which is really kind of boring. It's almost altruistic, these boring committees they got to go to. Instead of doing those jobs, which are really boring, they've decided, why don't we operate like Mark Levin or somebody? Why don't we act like Glenn Beck? Why don't we act like the talk show jocks? Because they're the ones who are the big heroes right now.
We're having much more fun. But, of course, if you come down to it, what's the next most boring job after legislator is actually being a radio guy, you know? I mean, sitting there in the studio, you know, getting wider and wider as the day goes by, you know, and running out of things to talk about.
You're not talking about the large man himself.
I'm not talking about anybody. I'm just saying.
I think. I just get the sense.
It seems like the radio talk show values have dominated, like Gresham's Law. They've driven real Republican lawmakers out of business. Nobody even knows who Mitch McConnell is. Everybody knows who's Rushbo, the man you just talked about as being
you know what I
fat.
think
By
about
the way, calling somebody fat is what cost the Democrats the election for governor of New Jersey.
That's right.
I would guess that everybody over a 38 belt size, everybody over 38 belt size, which is mine when I'm on a good day, voted for the fat guy, if you will. I mean, just be honest. There's a certain allegiance there. As a middle-aged
Republican, I'm not calling anybody fat, you know. But my thing with all the talk show hosts and stuff is that I've said all the things that they said. that they say, except I said it at 3 in the morning when I was drunk. You know, there's a couple other bums in the bar. You know, they're saying it at 3 in the afternoon, stone cold sober to millions of attentive listeners.
Well, when you wrote Parliament of Whores a few years ago, I think you sort of set the tenor for future viewings of Congress. Well, isn't that how you describe them?
I'll accept. You know, if I've made America look down on politicians, I will gladly accept the blame for that. That's
well, you know, you and me and the late Tony Snow, the wonderful guy who represented somewhat sort of good conservatism, and I laughed our keisters off for 3 hours one night when you described how federal spending occurs in this country. I wish the conservatives would get back to where the money's going. We'll be right back. You know, that is a pretty good thing for conservatives to do. Yes. Conserve. We'll be right back with P.J. O'Rourke and Eugene Robinson for more of the Politics Fix. Don't hold rallies. Watch the money. Follow it.
Although we lost fewer jobs than we did last month, our unemployment rate climbed to over 10%, a sobering number that underscores the economic challenges that lie ahead.
Back with P.J. O'Rourke. His book's called Driving Like Crazy. He's a great writer, and he's sometimes funny. And Eugene Robinson is always charming and thoughtful. Let me ask you this. I want to try something by you. I obviously am a Phillies fan. I obviously wish they'd won, but I do salute the Yankees, except that there is a charge lying out there that they bought this series, that they went out there and bought a bunch of players off season, huge amounts of money, something like $400 million we calculate, in signing agreements with just 3 of the players they went after. And how come that worked for them, but it didn't work for John Corzine as governor? He spent zillions of dollars making himself a public figure and finally getting dumped. And it just barely worked for Mike Bloomberg, who's immensely competent, but yet barely squeaked back in office, spending, what, $80-some million this time on top of all the money he spent before. PJ, how come you can buy a World Series, but you can't buy love and politics?
Well, fortunately, we don't get to vote on how well somebody pitches and how well they bat, a lot of which is perception, right? You know, I thought it was amazing. I kept waiting for the Tony Soprano vote to come in, the votes that come right at the end of a New Jersey election that are in alphabetical order and all the voters are dead, you know? But it didn't happen, you know? And Bloomberg, you know, that really amazed me. It just goes to show you, you know, that if you're there and you're in charge, people are tired of you no matter who you are. Even if you're poor Barack Obama, they're tired of you. People are sick of everybody who's in charge. That doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden the country's going to go Republican, but they are sick of everybody in charge.
Gene Robinson, there's a column here somewhere. I just want to buy. You can buy players, you can buy success in America, but somewhere there's a gagging. People gagged on Corzine. Well, he couldn't get above 45%. They gagged to a large extent on Mike Bloomberg. He only got barely over 50% after spending zillions of dollars in New York.
If it's true that money can't buy you love in politics anymore, then that's a huge change. I don't think it's true. I think money can buy you love.
Can you buy a personality? Can it give you a personality if you give him enough money?
It may not be able to buy you a personality. You don't need a personality if you have enough money. Yeah. But, you know, I think it was anti-incumbent. We're sick of the guy. You know, he's been around for 18 terms or whatever. You know, Letterman jokes that Bloomberg just won his 18th term. I mean, people...
Okay, what is it about New Jersey? Because there is something going on here. We all watched it like it was New Hampshire this time, PJ. It seems like with regularity in New Jersey, there are a series of indictments involving public officials. It just comes around like the morning Saturday. I used to get the Philadelphia Inquirer just to get the mob news on Saturday morning. There was always somebody who was reputed mob king of prostitution, gambling, whatever. And it was always somebody found in a gutter. They used to kill somebody in time for the first edition, and they would always find the body somewhere in the river. And now politicians are like that in Jersey. How many? Remember the mayors and all those rabbis that got picked up recently? Yeah, go ahead,
Chris. Jersey.
What is this?
I mean, think about the government getting into the health insurance business. You know, they're just another competitor like any other competitor, except they have a legal monopoly on deadly force. They've got guns. Now, what's the other organization that gets into business just like any other competitor, just another competitor, except they've got guns? You know.
You mean they're going to control the health industry the way the mob controlled the ice business?
You know, Blue Cross they're like the last legit trash haulers in Jersey, you know, if the public option goes through.
You mean instead of moving that jukebox into your bar and say, you better put the money in here and you better give it to me at the end of the month, they're going to move in their public option into your business establishment and say, you better buy this thing here. It's good for your health. Is that what you're saying, PJ?
That's what it's looking like to me.
The government should be so competent. I'm just wondering.
Well, there is
PJ,
that, isn't it? Yeah.
What do you think of Palin, and why are Republicans sort of picking these people from out west, these women like Michele Bachmann, and what do they got in common? What's going on in the Republican Party, your party? Why these two women from out west? What's going on?
They just absolutely don't have a clue. They just the Republicans lost the plot, and they lost it a long time ago. They lost it during the first Bush administration.
Thanks, as always, PJ O'Rourke, as always. Pulitzer Prize winning Gene Robinson.